Welcome to Big and Little Crochet, hexagon number 17. This week we've got the lovely teal yarn, and it's going to be joined by these babies over here to make the back loop rose. Now, so called because it looks a bit like a Tudor rose, and we're going to be working just into the back loop. Now we're starting off with the pink yarn. Here we are. So start off with a slip stitch as usual, and we're going to make 6 chains. I've got my 4mm hook, and then join in with a slip stitch into the first chain to make a ring. There we are. So that's our foundation ring. And now we're going to do trebles. Now we need 18 altogether, so we start off with a 3 chain to get up to the right height, and then another 17 trebles into the ring, remembering these are UK stitches. So the treble is what they'd call a double in the States, but it's yarn over through the ring, yarn over through 2, yarn over through 2. So you do 17 of those all the way round, and then we're going to fasten off. And when you've counted 18 all the way around, including that 3 chain, we're going to join with a slip stitch to the top of that same 3 chain and fasten off. And the next round is worked in river. And don't forget, if I'm going too quickly for you, you can just pause the video until you've caught up and join again at any old time. Okay, so I'm going to join with a slip knot, and this time we're going to be working into the back loop only. Now what that means is normally you have 2 bars that you work under, and on this stitch we're only going to work under this back one here, which is a bit will feel a bit looser than normal, and what it means is you'll have that ridge of that line will still be pronounced and show up the shape much more clearly. So we'll join here to any of these stitches, and we're going to be there I've done 2 chain and 1 treble into that same loop. Now the reason it's 2 chain is because we're going to be doing clusters, and they're slightly shorter than a regular treble. So I'm going to do a 2 treble cluster into this next stitch. So yarn over through 2, and instead of doing the rest of the stitch, you go back in and do another beginning, and then through all 3 stitches. I'll show you that again. Through the back loop only, yarn over through 2, and then start the stitch again, yarn over through 2 again, and then yarn over and through all 3 stitches. So we're going to have a 2 treble cluster in every stitch. So now we join the river into the back loop of any of those stitches, and we're going to do 2 chain and a treble. Now normally you do 3 chain for a treble, but because we're doing clusters it's a little bit shorter. Then there's a chain, and then we go into the back loop only of the next stitch and do a 2 treble cluster. You do the first part of the stitch twice, and then yarn over through all 3 and another chain. Let me show you that again. Yarn over through the back loop only and pull up, yarn over through 2, just as you would for an ordinary treble. Then we start it again, pull up, yarn over through 2, and then yarn over through all 3, and it makes a little group. And then there's a chain in between each one of those, and again I'm going into that back loop only. I know there's lots of things to remember on this one, aren't there? And when you work into the back loop only, it looks a bit stretchy when you start off, but don't worry, that'll even itself out when you've been all the way around. And when you get to where you started at the finished off the previous round, you can lay that yarn at the back and work it in. So at the end of that round, you do your 1 chain and join with a slip stitch to the top of the first cluster, and we can fasten off the river, and then we can also trim off the other ends at the back, because it can be confusing having too many ends. Best to manage these things as you go along. And next we're going to join the petrel. So here's the petrel, and I'm going to show you a new way of joining on a colour. So instead of doing a slip stitch, a slip knot rather, I'm going to join to any of these 1 chain spaces, and I've just got the yarn, and I'm just going to, leaving enough to work in, I'm just going to pull the yarn through and then start working with it. It's as easy as that. And you hold the end at the back to secure it in. And for this stitch, I think I'm going to lay it over the top there, because we're just doing chains. So we're going to do 4 chains, 1, 2, 3, 4, and then I'm not going to go into this next space. I'm going to go into the one after and do a double crochet, and then another 4 chains, and then skip that one into the next one. So into every other 1 chain space, 4, and then a double. So keep doing that all the way around. And when you get to the end of that round, which won't take you long, you get to this position where you need to do a slip stitch into the back of the first chain that you did, and then we can fasten off. And now we've got these lovely big spaces which we can work in the next row, and that's going to be with the teal. So I've threaded my these long ends along the chain here, because this chain's going to get covered up by stitches, so you won't see it, and it just keeps them out of the way. Like I said, doing it as you go along is a good plan. So this is where we are so far, and now we're going to join the teal. Now pick any of these 4 chain spaces, and we're going to join with our new method. And now I'm going to do 3 chains and 5 trebles into this same space. So I just need to push this further along the row so I can fit them all in. So there should be 6 trebles altogether. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And now in the next space I'm going to do 3 trebles and then a 2 chain gap, and that will of course be the corner. And then 2 chain and another 3 treble, so in the next space we've got 6 trebles, and then it'll be in the next space as well, but they're separated by another 2 chain, and of course that'll be your next corner. 1, 2, 3, 4. And then we go into another corner shape and then a further 2 like that. So that's what it's going to look like. Keep doing that pattern all the way around. And at the end of the round you do your final 2 chain and join with a slip stitch to the top of the first standing chain that you did. And again we're going to fasten off because we're going to join the pink again. So you can see that's the 2 chain spaces are our corners, and where we went into the back loop only is standing up like a nice ring. It really emphasizes that shape. So here's the rows, and I'm going to start off in a corner space, doesn't matter which one, and we're going to do 3 chains here. And then we're going to be working into the stitches here, and I'm going to miss that first one and go into the next one. So we start off with an extra chain, like that, and then 1 chain, and then I'm going to miss the next stitch and go into the one after. And again 1 chain, miss 1, into the next stitch. So you do that 4 times down the side. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, and then I need to do another one into the corner. So I've done my 1 chain, and in the corner space I'm going to do 1 treble and 2 chains and another treble into the corner, and then start off down the row again. So when we get to the end, you've got this lovely lacy open row, and we do our 1 chain as usual and into that final corner, and then 2 chain and join with a slip stitch to the third of that 4 chain from the beginning. And fasten off. And next we're going to join in the petrel, and I really like the way we've got these bright colours, but the dark blue really brings it down to earth, doesn't it? So we're going to join into a corner space and start off with 1 chain, and then 1 double crochet in the stitch, so in the top of this post, and 1 in that space. 1 in the stitch, that's at the top, just to the top right of that post, and then 1 in that stitch. And you should be able to do that 5 times down that row. And then in the corner space, when we get there, this is still, we're going to do 1 double crochet and 2 chain again. There, I have to think about that one. And then we kick off down this row again, and we start off going into the stitch first and then into the space. So one into the top of that post and one into this space. One into the stitch, one into this space. You just get into the rhythm of it. So keep doing that all the way around. And when you get to the end, you do your last 2 chain and join with a slip stitch to the first chain that you did. Just for the record, you do so when you join here, you've got a little slip stitch around the stitch or with a slip knot, and then you do another chain after that. So now all that remains is to sew in all those pesky ends, and that's hexagon number 17 done.